Hi everybody, I'm Bree the Plant Lady.
And I'm Aiden.
And today we are filling in some open space with annual cover crops. Specifically buckwheat and crimson clover, two of my all-time favorite plants.
Yes.
What I love about buckwheat is, first, I've already seen buckwheat self-sowing.
Yep.
So I know the soil is the right temperature. But it's a 30-day from seeding to flowering. 45 days, 5 days from seeding to flowering to starting to set seed again. So its succession sows itself really easily, and it's a perfect plant to fill in the gaps. It's got nice white flowers that attract like 45 different native pollinators. So if you're into bugs, buckwheat is a must grow.
Yes.
Now its counterpart is crimson clover. And we actually do a lot of crimson clover in the fall winter.
Yep.
That's already growing.
Yep.
But now is still a good time to get clover seeded, and it's a nitrogen fixing legume. So by using the crimson clover and buckwheat together, you actually have two kind of superpower cover crops that at the end of the season, when you mow them down, they provide all the nutrients that your next round of crops will need, and they do an incredible job of improving your soil. So today we're just going to walk around the garden, basically anywhere that we see open ground space,
Yep.
like unengaged ground plane. We're going to scatter seeds into it.
Yep.
And we don't have a lot of open ground plane, but we're going to somehow manage to find more than we realize.
Yep.
Yeah. So I hope you'll stay tuned to watch just how simple it is to direct sow with buckwheat and crimson clover as spring cover crops. So we're going to start with buckwheat, and you can see it's these small little black kind of geometric shaped seeds. And basically what we're looking for is, you see where there's mulch, we're just scattering it right on top of the mulch. Now buckwheat is so good that you really don't even need to scrape the mulch away. You certainly can. Bed prep is always a good idea, but we know from experience that this application will totally work. And we're using our seed packets that I've been selling at events so that everybody can understand how much square footage one package covers. So, I mean, that's more than what this bed area here could cover. I'm going to say it's about 200 square feet.
Oh yeah, and I put it dense too.
Yeah, and you do put it dense. That's good. All right, so we'll go across, and again, just looking for anywhere where there aren't seedlings growing, and like all this area, we could use a good covering of it, because if you don't have something growing, a weed will grow, and I'm tired of weeding. So it's time to employ our cover crops to do their job. All right, one package down. Two packages down. All right, see, we do this fast, everybody. We have good ground plane coverage with like poppies and stuff over here, but there's still areas that those things didn't germinate in. So again, I'd rather have buckwheat than, well, any of the winter weeds, or frankly, any of the summer weeds that are about to start germinating, because the soil's so warm. Although I say that, and last night we did have a bit of a frost, and you see those nasturtiums that were like really growing great got nipped by the cold. Now, I don't think they're dead, but they definitely have frost damage. And that's one of the risks you run at this time of year, getting things sown and then, having up and down temperatures that aren't always the perfect thing for some of the plants you're trying to zone bend with. All right, so now Aiden is sowing the crimson clover. And this crimson clover is from our seed that we collected. You see, it's not pelletized. It's really lightweight and furry. It germinates great. Often what I sell, I actually buy and repackage, because it's pelletized. It's a bit easier to apply. But there's nothing wrong with this, and we have a whole lot of it. And again, it's just a really nice, quick cover crop to fill in the gaps. And, we did this sowing about, 3.5 weeks ago. We have a lot of stuff that's come up, but you can see where there is open space. So better to do it now So by the time spring open garden comes, it'll look really awesome.
Yep.
We're gonna do some buckwheat in this kind of front half of the native border over here, but we've got a pretty good representation of crimson clover already. This was sown back in November, so now's a good time to go ahead and fill in the extra gaps with buckwheat. And we have a lot of open space here in the native border. This one particularly where we focused the ground plane with carex versus the one over there, which has a much denser ground plane of flowering perennials. So I think we'll go ahead and do a pretty heavy application of both crimson clover and buckwheat in here, just to get that ground plane engaged, knowing these are all annual. They're not going to be here forever. It's just to fill in the gaps and make it look a little extra interesting. And last but certainly not least, I'm going to help fill in the open spaces here in the wave. And then really the next steps, the really critical next steps, are to set up the sprinkler because we don't have any meaningful rain in our forecast, and get everything fertilized. I will be heading to Piedmont Feed this weekend so I can pick up fertilizer. I don't remember a spring, certainly in the 13 years that I've been gardening on this property, that we've been as dry as we are. We had a really dry fall, and you know, we had some serious rains through the winter, but you wouldn't be able to tell by the amount of moisture that the ground is holding right now. So we're gonna have to start dragging some hoses around, and that's really going to make a big difference in getting the plants activated. So I do hope that you will subscribe so that you can stay in the loop and see how this application of buckwheat and crimson clover cover crops makes a huge difference in all of our borders here in central North Carolina. Thanks so much for watching, everybody.